It's right here. Okay, my aunt Diane was moving into a new house. It wasn't a brand new house. Wasn't one she had built. I think it might have been one she had built. I'm not really sure, but they were trying to. She was needing to know how much water was coming off of her roof, and she was wanting me and Christian to calculate how much water was coming off of her roof. She needed to know, what did they call it? It had a term that you used for the water that was coming off of the roof. But anyway, she didn't have a lot of information about it. But what we gathered was that we were supposed to calculate the square footage of her roof and multiply that by the amount of rain she was getting. And another variable, as well as the number pi, was all part of this equation. And I was trying to figure out the answer, the solution to the equation, but I couldn't. Every time I tried to figure out the solution to the equation, instead of having a variable to help me solve the equation, what I had was the number pi in the place of a variable. So I could not solve the question. It's like I didn't have enough variables in order to solve the equation. But the thing about it, what I think is important about the dream, is that the number pi kept coming up. The number pi was in there. And it kept doing it. It kept trying. It kept going over and over. Even showed it to some other people. And it kept going, kept getting hung up on the number pi. And then, somehow, my Uncle Mike was in the dream, who is deceased, was in the dream. And it's as if his house was next door to my Aunt Diane's house. They were definitely clearly in the neighborhood and very, very close by, because we walked from one house to the other. And he was also moving in. And as we were in his house and he was sitting down, it was me and I guess the rest of my kids were all there, because I remember several of them there, and they were kind of being kids running around. And one of the neighbors came over. First, the dog came to the house, and the dog ran up in the house. And the thing about this little white dog is it ran up in the house as if it was his house, and started trying to protect the house. And I'm looking at the dog, and I'm like, this dog has been in this house before. But then the neighbor came, the owner of the dog came, and when she realized that my Uncle Mike was moving in, she ran up and gave him hugs, and got really, really friendly with my Uncle Mike. And so I think that was interesting. So, two things about this house: one living aunt, one deceased uncle, both moving into a new place. And then something about the number pi. I don't know. I'm gonna go back to sleep.